Today I'm gonna tell you the story on how the myth about the time needed to build a habit was born. Also, in the second half of the video, I'll talk about discipline and give you a few tools for you to use in your daily life. Simple but important things that actually have a great impact on everything you do. Have you ever heard that it takes about 21 days to build a new habit? I mean, why not 22? Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon in the 1950s when he began noticing a strange pattern among his patients. When Dr. Maltz would perform an operation, like a nose job or something, he found that it would take the patient about 21 days to get used to seeing their new face. Similarly, when a patient had an arm or a leg amputated, he would notice that the patient would also sense a phantom limb for about 21 days before adjusting to the new situation. After a few years and checking that his own behavior matched this pattern, he published a now best-selling book called Psycho-Cybernetics, where he claimed that a minimum of 21 days was necessary to incorporate something new into our lives and make it a routine. Of course, after a while, people forgot he said minimum and shortened it to 21, like a magical number for no apparent reason. And then, a myth was created. A week ago, I posted a video about my plan to achieve one of my New Year's resolutions. See, for some reason I decided that this year I'll be speaking perfect German and also a really decent Italian. All these while I do a master's and work at the same time. So a few things are possible here. Either I become completely crazy, or I just drop it, or maybe, just maybe, and somehow I actually do all that. To be honest, this is something I've been struggling with, and I think we all have in our lives, especially when we begin a new project or for some reason we have to change the way we do certain things. But how do we become disciplined? How do we stay committed and do what we actually said we would for a change? Now, depending on which scientific research or study you consider and the habit itself, it can take from 18 to 254 days to build and assimilate a new habit into your life. That's a pretty loose estimation if you ask me. So for the moment, I'll forget about time and just move on with my goals as time goes by, and I'll let you know when I feel it's become automatic. So in my previous video, I introduced my steps to learn languages this year. Obviously, I need to stick with my plan in order to make it happen, and that's exactly what most people don't do. The first thing you have to do is setting achievable and concrete goals. I mean, it may be very clear in your head, but for some reason, when you start talking, it's not. It's easier to focus on one thing at a time, and then build yourself up as you move on with your objectives. Another thing I'm doing is to set daily tasks for myself. Of course, it's a lot easier to learn language when you are immersed in the country or surrounded by people who speak it, but that may not be an option for you, and I'm not relying on that either. So now I'm forcing myself to spend some time every day listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos for half an hour. For now, I don't care what time of the day I do this. Honestly, my schedule changes a lot depending on the day, but you can set a specific moment to do it if it suits you. It's much easier to stick to your plan when you know you have a deadline, right? So you can use that to your advantage and plan ahead with proper structure and organization, like every week what you want to accomplish. Now here's a plus. Since there's no one checking on you, what guarantees you'll actually do what you said you would? You need to establish a consequence in case you don't stick to your plan. This is very common with fitness goals like running 3 to 5 miles if you break your diet. I mean, I'm not saying that's the best way to go, but it's effective to a certain point. At least it makes you think what you have to do to compensate for not keeping your word. Another thing you can do is the opposite. You can set a good consequence as a reward for achieving your milestones. It's a very efficient way to encourage yourself to keep going, like the kid eating dinner just because he or she wants dessert. I mean, it makes sense, because that way you have a reason, a motivation to keep going. There's a dopamine release in the end, and your brain knows it. So with these tips, all you're doing is playing the carrot and the stick situation, but in a way that actually works for you. So it may be a bit more difficult at first, during the first few weeks, but then it should become a bit more natural as time goes by. All that is part of the paternal or the father function, as it is described in psychoanalysis. But that's a subject for another video.